Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. You have an excess of red on your screen right now if you're watching on the video version, which you should because we're both incredibly attractive men, says I. Uh, Today, this is your overly caffeinated host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Nima Ashtari, founder and CEO at Manifold. Nima, how's it going today?
Not bad. How's it going, Tony?
Fantastic. So normally I break the ice over the weather, but there's actually a couple of fun stories here. So number one, uh, we're recording on July 1st, which for my fellow Americans is July 1st. For Canadians, it's Canada Day. Uh, so yes, we were scheduled to record yesterday, and I spent the weekend in Vegas, and I took a red eye back home and only got 3 hours of sleep. I made it through my morning meetings, but Nima had the bad luck of being scheduled for an afternoon recording. So at about, I don't know, 1 p.m. Eastern, I messaged him and I'm like, I am dead to the world. Can we reschedule for tomorrow? With facing that it was Canada Day. So I was surprised that he's like, no problem, because I figured his schedule might be busy. Uh, Turns out the reason he was free is because it is a holiday in Canada. So number one, thank you for being willing to record on a holiday. Number two, we were both at what conference was it? Chicago.
We were both
Uh,
in InsurTech New York and also in the one for Insights.
okay, so
And
I met you probably the first time in New York. And yes,
yeah,
insights. Okay, so I met you the first time in Shooting New York in like very early in like it was still like almost winter. Then at Insights, Nima is running around with the red hat, I think a red jacket,
and a red
and
jack. Yeah.
yeah, and a little ukulele, which
Ukulele.
he can actually play. Uh, so when I see him, I go over, but he's dressed like me basically, except for the ukulele, right? And I've been dressed like this for a long time. So I now his hat's not a top hat. So anyway, I go over, and that day I'm dressed in purple because I'm under contract with Quantex as their booth magician. So that actually gave us some separation. Uh, but then a whole bunch of people would come over and tell me about the imposter. So eventually I felt bad about halfway through the first day, and I went over and wrote him a permission slip uh, so that people would not think that this is, oh, he still has it.
Ah, yeah.
I
And the
love
picture.
that. I love that. I absolutely love that. So thank you. So that people would know that this is not an adversarial thing. And actually, I wish I had been in red too, because the pictures would have been amazing with both of us in red. Anyway, and then today I do this horrible thing to you, make you work on a holiday. So Nima, you are up in Canada, but your LinkedIn doesn't say where in Canada. Is it Toronto or where in
We're in
Canada?
Toronto right now, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so while the US was cooking last week, at least the whole East Coast, how's the weather been in Toronto? Has it just been nice?
You know what? It's very much like New York. If you
So you
got
guys
New
were
York
cooking last
weather,
week.
we got like two degrees up or down from
Okay,
that.
so last
So
week you guys were cooking.
yeah, we were cooking. I did not
Okay.
leave. I just stayed indoors and made myself very chilly with max
That
AC.
that is what I did here in Atlanta most of the week. But I had to go to New York on Wednesday on a quick back and forth same day. And yeah, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like absolutely awful. And
Yeah, it's
then I went to Vegas where it was 108, but it's a dry heat, so it really is not that bad. After 120, it's awful, but 108 was fine. All
when it gets
right.
that hot, we just get up and go to Calgary and Banff because you could really enjoy some cold water from
I
Glacier.
I have been to Calgary for the wonderful Amplified Broker Tech Fest, which is moving to Toronto now next spring. So I've been there twice, and I have not been to Banff. So something I have to
It's
check out. I've
the
heard
best
wonderful.
Canada has to offer when it comes to nature.
Oh, I've heard it's absolutely beautiful.
It's
And Canada
gorgeous.
in general is gorgeous. Uh, so when I'm recording with Canadian companies, I am always with flirting with my Canadian background. So Nima, we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Manifold?
Yeah, so essentially Manifold helps out. all the insurance companies in the auto space to kind of get on with the video analysis age of telematics. So if you want to use video, if you want to use dash cams that are connected to telematics devices for your auto insurance program, Manifold is what allows that to happen. We're essentially an aggregation and analysis tool built for underwriting and claims, primarily around video. So there's a lot of video coming out in the world, and we're kind of the enabling tool.
All right, all right, all right. All right. So it looks like you've been doing this for about a year and a half, according to LinkedIn. So you're fairly early on. Uh, but this is not your first rodeo as a founder.
No.
Uh, so 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 yeah, normally I first I dig into like how this is useful for insurance, what's the integration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, I think it'll be more interesting to go the other way. And start at the end, basically, which is the origin story. How did you, yes, the origin story of Manifold.
Yeah, so actually it gets even more interesting. So my background is actually in robotics. I studied mechatronics engineering. I did a lot of robotics work for automotive companies, Honda, Magna, Tesla, to name a few. And primarily I would use camera data to control the robots in terms of what they do. So you'd like take a picture of a wheel, and then you would take a picture of the bolt pattern on the vehicle, and then you would pick up the wheel with the robot and stick it on with the right orientation of the bolt pattern, and then bolt it in. So a lot of work like that required vision. So kind of I was thrust into early parts of doing robotics with vision. After my stint at all the big corporate companies that I think was worthwhile working at, I decided that I want to start my own. And my first company was back in 2016, was actually in self-driving cars. So our product was an aftermarket self-driving kit. You would bolt it onto an existing vehicle and it would kind of drive itself, primarily for commercial vehicles.
That sounds like the craziest idea ever. Okay, continue.
Yeah, it was a little nuts. We actually drove that self-driving guard down to Vegas. There's some good footage of that online. And Alex Roy of Drive Magazine did like an interview with us. He did a whole video and everything.
So that was in
Um,
2016 you drove down to Vegas?
that was 2017 is
27.
when I
See,
drive our first prototype there.
okay, so there's a serious problem with that. That was you were 5 years too early to see the best magician ever.
That's right.
Uh anyway, continue.
So that was at CES actually.
Oh,
So
that okay, okay. I forgive you.
we did CES, and I had nothing to do with insurance. I knew nothing about insurance, honestly. I thought it was
Of
just
course.
something I never had to deal with in my
Of
life.
course. Yeah.
And I thought that building aftermarket self-driving is going to be kind of everything I do. We ended up having two major roadblocks for building self-driving as an aftermarket product. One was around insurance, and the other was around variability in vehicles. So
Yes.
I'll skip
So
the second part.
if we had ran into each other in Vegas at CES, I've never been to CES, but that is probably really awesome. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so the rest of us at ITC are like, oh my God, ITC, and you're like, this is so much smaller than CES. I get it, I get it. Okay. The if we had run into each other at CES, and over a magic trick and a drink, I had mentioned that I'm in insurance, and you had said, yeah, I'm building aftermarket self-driving, I would have gone like, I love the idea of self-driving vehicles. I'm a little bit scared about the idea of self-market or of aftermarket self-driving. I mean, it's cool if it
Yeah.
works, but it does seem dangerous. And there's zero chance you'll be able to convince insurance companies to insure this, is what I would have said, right?
Yeah.
I would have been like, how are you doing on finding an insurance partner for this, right?
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
would
would
have
have been
clued
like,
you
what's the
in.
problem?
Yeah, I would have saved you like a year of your life. and like 6 years of like lost life expectancy from stress. So it's okay. So yes, insurance, of course. But for the listeners
Yeah.
of this show, but yes, how would you know that if you're not an insurance person?
So that's
Uh,
one thing, but also I wouldn't have known. Like the other thing is, even if you did tell me, I'm not convinced I would have listened.
of course, I mean, you wouldn't have. No, no, no. You would have at least started the process of finding out earlier.
Yeah,
So the second problem was variability in like the physical mechanical design of vehicles. Okay, perfect.
correct.
That I wouldn't have known, but it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So there is some variability. So we fought that variability by tailoring our product primarily around commercial vehicles. So that narrowed it down to basically, kind of Sprinter vans, transit vans from Ford, GM's ProMaster. So we had like kind of down selected down to a number of vehicles we thought were going to be kind of the workhorses of most commercial fleets, and we were going to adapt to those cars. But that being said, we actually did find a couple of pilot customers who were very interested and wanted to do this. And we threw this stuff on there and started piloting. And, while we were trying to figure out the whole insurance bit, and then basically COVID hit. But prior to that, we did go to insurance companies and told them, listen, we got this product and we're going to give you incredibly detailed data that you can use to evaluate this solution and decide whether you want to insure it. And when we told them that, they looked at us like we're insane. Not only because what we were proposing was nothing like how insurance works, they also, even if they wanted to, had no ability to absorb this data and make any sense of it. So we were going to give them frame by frame telemetry of the vehicle, as well as the frame by frame. At frame, I mean like 30 frames per second video, uh, for every single moment from every single camera, including the LiDAR sensor that we had at the time. Also self-designed, like we had designed our own LiDAR sensor. So we'd kind of gone way off the kind of rocker in terms of knowing what the insurance company is actually going to be able to use to help us evaluate the risk and then give us insurance. And so they basically told us, no, look, none of this stuff that you showing us is great. We cannot use any of this. We've never used any of this. This is useless to us. So it was kind of surprising to me because I thought, well, isn't that how insurance works? Isn't that how it should work? Like that was kind of very
Well,
surprising.
if you come back with 10 years of data
Yeah,
showing because okay, I am not an actuary, but my understanding is that actuarial science is based in looking in the rearview mirror, right? So now we've improved that with data science over the last few years, right? But ultimately, to be insurable, we need years and years and years of data. Uh, we struggled with freaking Uber and Lyft. It's only the last few years that we finally got comfortable with Uber and Lyft, right? Because it's a weird hybrid personal line slash commercial, right? So one thing is insuring a taxi that only does commercial, and another thing is insuring a family car or a personal car. But when you're insuring them together and it's hard to differentiate what is what, that makes it extremely complicated. And yeah, that was a very, very niche product until we had like 10 years of data. So that's the heart. It's a chicken and egg problem, right? In order to make it insurable, you need 10 years of data. And how do you get 10 years of data driving a car that's not insured? And it's not one car. You need a fleet of cars, right? So you need to like it would require getting Amazon to install it in every one of their vehicles and self-insure. And then with that data,
that's
10
the
years
key. Yeah.
later, and it's so hard to do, right? That's the part of the problem with the way that we and I don't know how we fix that. By the way, listeners, David Wright or any other actuary that's a listener, if you have an idea on how to fix that, I'd love to have you on the show to talk about it. How do we
Yeah.
create products without 10 years of data? Anyway, continue.
So that's, one of the big thorns on the side of insurance is because of what you just said, they're fundamentally and principally against new things.
Yes, yes.
So new products are just not going to launch for a number of reasons like that. But so this becomes a real problem. And we discovered in that same kind of period that the only other self-driving companies that actually have cars on the road, and at the time it was Waymo and Uber AG, and a couple of others who
And
had,
and by the way, think about what those have in common. They're all large enough or have large enough parents that they can afford to largely self-insure.
yeah, exactly. So we did learn that they all self-insure. Not only that, do they self-insure, that limits you in terms of who you can sell the actual product to, because it would have to be your own cars.
Hmm.
So now, not only are they a tech company that builds self-driving tech, they're also an operating fleet, which is a whole other business. It's an entirely different kind of business.
Yep,
And, it doesn't make a lot of sense because a tech company has different skills, and an operational company like a fleet company has a different set of skills.
absolutely,
So,
radically different businesses. Yes, even
yeah. And
even
so,
even the way that you fund them, right? So the tech company you can fund with VC funds, but tell a VC that you want to buy, you know, 10,000 trucks with their money.
yeah, no VC is going to give you that kind of money.
Never,
It doesn't
exactly.
make any
Yeah.
sense.
For something that's not exponential. Exactly.
So regardless, that we ended up leaving that game and pivoting away from self-driving. And one of the other things that we discovered in kind of developing the technology, the way we were developing was actually very similar to how Tesla is developing it today and how Kama AI was developing it at the time, which was very different at that time. At that time, the dominant worldview, including that of Tesla's, was that, and Waymo, was that you had to have vision models that basically pulled out interesting information from the image. Then you had to have a kind of world model where you placed all those things in sort of 3D space, with vectors about every direction and every acceleration. And then from there, you would have to have a planning model who's supposed to figure out how to go somewhere within that scene. And then the fourth section where you take the plan and you execute, and that's kind of like a control system that's tied to the car's steering wheel and gas and pedal. The way we approached it, and so did Kama, was that we said, no, it's pixels in, actions out. So whatever happens in between, we don't have to break it down and engineer every level. We just have to let the model figure out what's important in the middle. So if you see an object like a car, it may be interesting to you as a car, but to the model, it may be interesting just as something that occupies space and that I can't go there and that it moves.
Hmm.
But for you, a car has a whole bunch of other conceptions, like it has lights and it has a roof. Maybe I could strap something to that roof. And so you spend a lot of your resources figuring out all these other things about a car that are
Hmm.
irrelevant when it comes to
Hmm.
driving around
Makes
it.
perfect sense.
So essentially that really compresses also your model, and eventually that's actually how Tesla ended up solving it. And probably we will see Waymo do the U-turn at some point, and do it that way as well. If they survive. But Kama's done it that way. Wave down in London, UK is doing it that way. And I think those are going to be the successful methods. But nonetheless, as one of the downsides of doing this method is that you have to have the human make corrections to what the robot's doing. So you basically run the model in the background, even when the human is driving. And then you say, in this moment, what would you do? In this moment, what would you do? In the next moment, what would you do? And then you look at what the robot would have done and what the human is doing at that moment. And then try to correct and say, okay, well, if there's a difference between what the human did and what the robot would have done, maybe that's a sign we need to correct the behavior of the robot,
Okay.
right?
Hmm.
So
Makes
you
sense.
train the model this way by
Hmm.
having it shadow drive kind of next to you, right?
Okay.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like scanning, it's watching everything, and it's like I would do this, I would do this, I would do this, and then you watch. And so when there's a delta, we pull that in, we call that a moment of learning, and it becomes a piece of large amounts of data sets that we're putting together. One of the things we noticed during training is that this starts to asymptotically kind of level out. It doesn't continue to improve. And when we look deeper into it, we found two things. One is there is like these subtleties in terms of how you correct when you've already gone off the rails. So humans have these like kind of correction mechanisms that
Mm-hmm.
the model was not learning because it was mostly watching good behavior. It wasn't watching you recovering from a really bad situation that many times.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it just there isn't that many examples of recovery.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
say you find
There's
yourself
more
sort of in the middle of
learning.
the lane.
Yeah, there's more learning from the exceptions. And there's not enough exceptions if you're not unless you're unless you can figure out how to watch a very large number of drivers. There's just not that many crucial
That's right.
moments.
And for you to select the data that is of those recovery moments so that you can focus the training on those things that it doesn't do well. So recovery is a big problem. And the other thing that we found is that in the data, there was plenty of noise. And what was the noise? The noise was we thought this is a moment for the robot to get better because the human did something different. But when we looked at it, example by example, we realized there's many cases where the human made the mistake. So we're not actually training the model to be better. We're
Mm-hmm.
making it worse, or we're basically noise. It
I
doesn't
I
do anything.
I was thinking that when the whole like 8 years, 10 years we spent talking about self-driving cars, one of the big pieces that you talked about a lot is the majority of accidents happen because of human error, right? So if you're training the AI in human error, you've got to correct for that human error.
Yeah. And there is actually two things that are fundamentally on your side, which is that humans primarily agree when the driving is acceptable. So like
Mm-hmm.
we all agree on the way to drive. We tend to disagree on the ways not to drive, right? Like
Uh,
so we make
okay.
mistakes differently, so to speak, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there is some reasoning behind this idea, and that reasoning is sound. But nonetheless, you still end up at the asymptote, which means you're just
Mm-hmm.
not improving as the model's training. So we realized one thing is that during this kind of pivotal moment that the model's actually catching a lot of human mistakes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Inadvertently, what we're doing is we're comparing you to a driver that does, let's say, 95% of the driving well. And sometimes you guys don't agree between what to do. And many of those times, it's your fault, the human driver. And so what we're actually catching is human drivers making mistakes. And we realize, oh, insurance is a problem. We know how to catch people make mistakes. Maybe we could use the mistakes to train an insurance model. And so that was the kind of the birth of my second company, which is Foresight Analytics in 2020. So the idea was how can we leverage self-driving technology to evaluate how humans drive?
Okay, perfect, perfect.
Okay, so like you can just put a coaching, like you think of like someone who's going to train you on how to drive as a driving coach. You put them next to you. The minimum requirement for you to be a driving coach is that you know how to drive.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably other things, but that's like a minimum requirement. And that's basically the idea is that the thing that's going to judge you knows how to drive. And then we
Mm-hmm.
looked in the market and saw a lot of video telematics kind of companies out there that kind of have these like rigid rules about what they think is dangerous driving. And they try to
Mm-hmm.
capture that. Let's say there's a
Yeah. It's
moment
like hard
you
braking, hard
exactly. Hard
acceleration, hard
braking, all
cornering.
those
Yes,
things. And
yes,
we've
yes, yes.
said, you know
The
what, we
usuals.
could do better than that. We could
Mm-hmm.
definitely do better than that given the models that we have. So we actually designed our very own video telematics device, all designed in-house, built in US and Canada. Um, and started delivering that actual product. It was an all-in-one product. So you think of it as like a Geotab plus a Samsara plus a, Lytics all in
Hmm.
one unit. You couldn't get an option without a camera, so to speak. It's just the telematics with camera. And we started selling that as an insurance-specific video telematics solution that
Uh-huh.
was built for risk analysis.
Okay.
So
I'm heartbroken you never came on the podcast with it, my friend. Where have you been hiding? Okay.
So yeah, I mean you can actually look up a lot of things about that. That
So
company is still
so
up and going.
okay, so Foresight Analytics is still up and going.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is it separate from Manifold?
So then we learned that there is actually a lot of fleets that already have some kind of video solution.
Mm-hmm.
And while insurers would love to get access to this data, and they don't currently have many of them, they can't force the fleet company to switch out to another camera. A, because the fleet
Mm-hmm.
company's got these long-term contracts with them, 3 years, 5 years long. And then the other side is that they've built a whole bunch of integrations operationally with the cameras. They don't want to have to switch all that out.
Yes.
So we discovered that that's not quite the way you're going to get the vast majority of customers.
Mm-hmm.
And we need big data to do what we want to do, which is actually transition insurance. I'll maybe back up prior to what the goal was. The goal of Foresight was we need to change the way insurance is done such that it can do automotive insurance of self-driving cars. This was like you talked about the 7 year long history and all of that. That's a true requirement, but there's another actually thing there. So you need two things. You need the input data and then you need the loss data.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
yes, yes.
currently,
When I said 10 years of data, I meant including losses. Yes.
yeah, so you have losses, and that's what you're probably very familiar with. But the thing that matters with the self-driving car is that the input data is different. The input data also has to be changed. So right now, it's losses as the output data of the model. The input data is how long have you been driving? What's your postal code? Are you a male? Are
Which are all
you,
proxies
which are all proxies,
because
but
we
they're
just didn't have the ability
and the self-driving car
yes.
does not have that. So
Uh-huh.
two things need to happen. Yes, you need 7 years of history, but those 7 years need to be with data that you can also ask a self-driving car of. You can't ask those questions. You can't ask a self-driving car, when did you get your license? And hey,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how
The proxy data that we have depended on for 100 years to underwrite auto, uh, it's meaningless when it comes to self-driving. We're still figuring out how do we underwrite self-driving.
yeah. And so the fundamental idea of Foresight was we're going to get you that data. We're going to get you and build models that are purely based on the driving behavior itself. And then you can swap out who's doing the driving. You can swap out the human for a robot and it will still work. So the idea was let's switch out your input data
Mm-hmm.
against your losses, the thing you're trying to predict losses with. And
Mm-hmm.
once you switch it out to these data points that we're going to capture using cameras and telematics and all of that, then you can simply replace the agent from a human to a robot and it will still work because it's the same fundamental data inputs. Currently, even if you really wanted to, you still don't have the input data in order to model the self-driving car's losses, right? So that was kind of the goal of Foresight. And what we saw is that Foresight could not get to that goal with the scale it needs because there's all these camera vendors who are like kind of sitting on top of fleets and just not letting them switch out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Manifold is about. Manifold is essentially saying, okay, that's fine, no problem. We're going to utilize the data that's already there. Whatever camera you already have, Manifold essentially ends up being the hardware-less version of what Foresight was building and uses that data that's already in the cameras.
All right. So it aggregates the data from whatever sources.
Yeah, it aggregates and then it analyzes it primarily using the video for underwriting and for claims.
All right. When did this pivot take place?
So then this one happened in September of, or I think it was mid summer of last year, summer of 2024.
All right. All
We
right. All
we did
right. So
the
a little bit less
third
than a
one.
year. Uh, all right. Uh, so where are you in the process? Meaning like is the platform operational? Are there carriers that are already using it? Okay, so what does my world look like if I am the actuary, the product manager, whoever the user is at, you know, Apex, I'm making up a company, insurance, which is a carrier that does a lot of commercial auto.
So currently, before Manifold, your life looks like either you have no telematics program, you've never seen telematics data, and the thing you've seen is primarily your typical loss information and maybe the operations of the company, like what business they're in, where they're located, all those kinds of things, how many trucks they have. And then if you have some kind of telematics program, you've probably seen some stuff come through like speed. You'll probably have familiarity with getting all the kind of speed data and maybe some IFTA data verified through GPS kind of breadcrumbs. So you might
Mm-hmm.
have seen breadcrumb data, which tells you how many miles each fleet has spent in each state and verify with your IFTA reports that okay, their actual operations are 30% in this state or 40% in that state. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have some kind of modeling adjustments for 30%. You adjust it up or down depending on that risk for that state. So that's kind of the level of telematics use we've seen in underwriting. There are a couple of innovative companies. I'll just name drop a few for reference, like HDVI um, and Nirvana and others who basically say, no, you have to have a camera, and they
Mm-hmm.
enforce that the fleet has a camera. And then while I have not seen them use that camera data for underwriting, I have seen them use it for claims. So on the claim
Interesting.
side,
I did not realize that they didn't use it for underwriting. Okay.
not yet. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where we really hope to make a dent with Manifold is to help them use it for underwriting as well. But for claims, you're going to get a bunch of videos that come back from either one of these telematics providers. You're going to have a whole lot of false positives because that's normal. And then what you're going to have to do is use this data, hopefully, when you have a case to say, look, it wasn't our guy's fault, or it was our guy's fault. Let's just get this done with and close out the claim. So there's a whole bunch of applications and claims for that. But a lot of them are overwhelmed because it's the first time they've ever really seen anything like this. And so now they
Uh-huh.
have like literally humans whose job it is at these different companies to watch videos. Like
You're kidding me.
yeah, they just sit
Now,
around all day and
I'm
just watch
assuming
the
you
videos.
mean humans in the Philippines, India, and
I have no
okay.
idea. I have no idea where they're located, but they might not be in those places because of data privacy concerns. So they
Okay.
might be
It, if
Americans and Canadians
it
doing it.
if anybody's listening and you are in North America and you either are employed or you manage people whose job is it to watch video
Yeah.
for an insurance operation of some sort, reach out. I want to
Yeah.
have you on the podcast, please.
Yeah. So, and we can help you guys because we basically have a robot that can watch it instead.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And that robot's job is to pick out all the things that are relevant in those videos because that's what that robot was doing when it was driving the
Yes,
car.
yes. Makes okay, makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. Yes. Got it. So basically, in summary,
In summary, yeah.
okay,
Long story.
once the engineer finishes
Yeah.
explaining the calculus involved, and I'm slightly exaggerating, the sales guy can quickly summarize in a probably not completely correct way, but in a philosophically correct way. Uh, Basically, Manifold. Our robots came from self-driving vehicles and can watch literally millions of hours, can analyze literally millions of hours of video and get you the data you actually need in a matter of minutes.
There you go. Better than I could
Manifold.
have ever done.
I'm a marketer.
That's
And
right.
I'm a marketer that knows insurance, that interviews insurtech people literally every
Yeah.
day of the week, right? Like
And that's why we need
I
Tony on our team.
I have a very specific set of skills that are rather useless in the real world, but that are very beneficial
This
in this.
reminds me of that movie.
Yes, yeah, I was going for that exactly. I've never seen it. Yeah, but I know exactly. The meme. Okay, so Nima, we're almost out of time, but what a great conversation. So a few carriers are already using it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dream carrier would be progressive. Yeah, your white whale would be progressive, right?
I
Um,
mean, I don't know where progressive is at, honestly, when it comes to video,
but they have like the point is that they are a ginormous
they're the biggest
commercial auto
and they are the best
and
at it. So
their telematics program without video. Their telematics program has 20 years of data, right?
yeah.
Uh, so like that would be your white whale. So for the listeners, okay, if anybody listened this deep in, either they're an engineer, they're a founder hopeful, they're a commercial auto expert of some sort, or they've run a product or whatever at a company that this could be useful for. So who should reach out?
If you've got any sort of plans with video, or if you're already dealing with video that's getting out of hand, whether it's for your claims guys or for the underwriting that you don't know how to use it, we're
Mm-hmm.
the place that make it happen. So we can make the claims part happen really fast. That's like easy
Mm-hmm.
to understand. Hey, I don't want to have humans watch videos. But the other side of it, which is the underwriting, you're like, well, how am I supposed to use the video for underwriting? A lot of the behavioral things you're looking for, risks that are behavioral, come from the camera. So whether it's distracted driving, smoking, and all the other things that can lead to behavioral risks. And then the other one's actually environmental, believe it or not. A lot of environmental data is incorrect when it comes to vehicles at the vehicle level. So I'll give you an example, like weather data. You can pull in weather data from a number of different sources around the world. And it's very approximate when it comes to the experience of the car itself. It's accurate if you look from like a wide enough zoom level, but when you're talking about the risk that the car is experiencing, you're very specifically interested. Is it raining for this car right now?
Yeah, it has to be in
So
this
that
little
you can
cell, basically.
yeah, so that you
Yeah.
can know that this guy spends most of his time in rain or in snow or whatever other kind of environment. So, but cameras capture that. So it's a sensor, so it's capturing it. All you need to do is analyze that video and say, oh, it was raining here, sunny here, and just look at the image to figure all that stuff out. And we do that. So that's just one example of some of the underwriting capabilities that are at your disposal when you analyze the video when you're trying to build those models. So really, it's enhancing your underwriting models with data that comes from video when you already have this video coming from the telematics providers that are embedded in your fleets.
Fantastic. All right. Nima, thank you very much for your time today. Very, very interesting. I look
Anytime,
forward
Tony.
to see you guys continue to grow. I look forward to see you on the road with your red hat and jacket and
And the
ukulele.
ukulele. Um,
Exactly.
while you're the
Exactly.
magic guy, I'll be the
We're
music guy.
we're gonna have to do a combined show at some point. No to ITC or Insurtech New York, I think is our best bet. No to David and Tony.
Yeah,
You should have the Red Crew perform officially at uh at Insurtech New York Spring 2026 at the Chelsea Pier. I'm guessing it's going to be in the same place.
yeah.
Uh the Red Crew, whatever we end up calling it with the word red,
Yeah, I like that one because
Ukulele and magic
represent.
and magic combination. Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Anytime, man. Appreciate you. And good luck with hopefully the magic tricks.